Happy Peace Day, everyone. You're not convinced, huh? But I think the beauty of today's reading is this. The first reading tells us what is a saint, and the gospel tells us how to become a saint. And so this Solemnity of All Saints' Day is our celebration. We have to envision ourselves. For a moment, let us feel that we are already saints in heaven, right? Just the thought of it, because it's so easy to be taken away from that context, especially with the things that is happening around. It's easy to be drawn into the negativities of life, of not being grateful, of a lot of complaints, of being angry and unforgiving. But no, God's grace is everywhere. He even uses our own weaknesses to challenge us to become saints. This is our celebration. For some, in the nearer future. Some would be a little bit later. But the reality is, can you imagine seeing each other in heaven? Right? Sometimes we have to motivate ourselves, to envision ourselves sitting beside the person bringing us closer to heaven. It is our celebration, not because we are good, but because the sanctity of God has touched our lives. The saints are not perfect model, but through whom God passed. And so I would like you to turn to your sides and greet one another with a title, Saint. Introduce yourself if you don't know the other person and say, "Hey, good morning, I'm Saint Jose." Come on, try it. Introduce yourself. Empower with the word. Right? Saint Thomas. That is the reality of our life. Why are we so afraid and, of course, hesitant to do that? That is the very call that we are baptized into. To claim that reality of our life, that we are made to become great, to be a saint. We can compare them, the saints that we have known, those array of people used by God, as like a window which allow God's light to enter in the different shades of color. You've been to a lot of churches, right? Stained glass windows, just like that one, right? The saints are our brothers and sisters who have welcomed the light of God in their heart and have passed it on to the world, each according to his or her own use. But they were all transparent. They fought to remove the stains and the darkness of sin as to enable the gentle light of God to pass through. This is our life's purpose, to enable God's light to pass through. It is the purpose of our life too. Just like the stained glass in this picture. People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. And when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is light from within. That is the life of God in us, to inspire others. We are like stained glass window. We have stain, right? But through that transparency, the light of God in us, it depicts beautiful icons or pictures of what a beautiful piece of artwork is. Saints are not perfect, but they remind us of our daily battle against spiritual mediocrity. Because the reality is they were not born with halo already on their head. No. Look at St. Peter. He was a coward when he denied the Lord. St. Paul persecuted the church. St. Teresa of Child Jesus was a very stubborn child. St. Augustine says, there is no saint without a past, no sinner without a future. He should know he was one of the greatest sinners, yet now we know him as a great saint. And the list goes on. Again, this is not about those canonized saints. They've already been glorified with God. But those who are not canonized, but we know, who walk, and we have encountered, that it inspired us to live a life of faith. Now, what then made them saints? The first readings tell us they were the people who overcome the time of great distress, temptations, difficulties, and they washed their clothes in the blood of the Lamb and made them white. I'm just trying to imagine how each one of you would look like in heaven, with all the lights that beaming from inside, going out. They struggled. That is the most important thing that we have to admire with the saints. All of us has a cross to bear. And that way of carrying it is the lesson that we could inspire other people. They sinned, but of course they went to confession, determined not to commit the same sin again. And when they fell, they stood up without giving up. They simply believed that their weaknesses do not define who they are, but because God provides us with all the means to reach this goal: confession, the Eucharist that we're celebrating, the reading of the Bible, avoiding persons, places, and things that cause us to sin. And this is beautiful, what St. John Paul II said. We are not the sum of our weaknesses and failures. We are the sum of our Father's love for us. Just embrace that reality. It will empower you to overcome negativities of life, strengthen you to overcome selfishness, to be able to forgive and to love even the unlovable. Let me share once again this beautiful story, one of my favorite. A farmer had 2 large clay water containers. He hung them on each end of the pole, which he carried across his shoulder. While one container was new and in good condition, the other one had a crack in it. As expected, while the farmer carries water from the well to the house, the defective container could only manage to bring in half of the load. The rest of the water leaks out from the crack on its side. This made the poor cracked container ashamed of himself. "I pity my master," he said to himself. "He fills me up with water, but I am able to deliver only half of it to the house." After some time of shame and frustration, he managed to talk to the farmer. "I am ashamed of myself, and I want to apologize to you," he said. "Because of my defect, so many water is wasted, and you don't get full value of all your efforts." The farmer confronted him and said, "Do not be hard on yourself. Look around. Do you see the beautiful flowers along the path leading to my house? I have always known about your defect. So instead of feeling bad about it, I took advantage of it. I planted flower seeds along the path. And every day while we walk back to from the well, you have watered them. These flowers that made the pathway colorful and add beauty to my house came from that cracked side of yours." Beautiful. Your own weaknesses, your own failure can be used by God to inspire others, allowing His grace to do something about it. And so as we honor all the saints today, let us remember that they too had their holes and cracks, But this did not hinder them from following Jesus. Rather, this made them always humble and total dependent on God, and more often to His grace. Let us not be discouraged by our failures and weaknesses and mistakes. No one is perfect. We are earthen vessels with holes and cracks. But if we are truly humble and fully rely on God's mercy and wisdom, the Lord will use our flaws for His glory and salvation of souls. In God's great economy, nothing goes to waste. For indeed, God can write straight with crooked lines. As I invited you to imagine yourself being already in heaven, wearing white robes, sitting beside people that you have today, the reality of challenge is this: there are empty seats. May you be inspired to live an inspiring life for others too. Amen.